Manhattan is officially having a bad day because a giant flaming face is hovering over the skyline. This is Dormammu, and he's not just here for the sights. He's gloating about how the city's sorrow is going to be a top-tier snack for him, especially since Dr. Doom isn't around to stop him. So, he thinks the world is ripe for the taking, but he's forgotten one very important detail. Wanda Maximoff floats into the frame, wreathed in chaotic red energy, and looking like she's ready to skip the pleasantries. She makes it clear that Witch is definitely not her name anymore. Wanda reminds the big guy that she's nobody's puppet, having already stuffed the dark god Tan into a tiny box. Dormammu tries to flex his power, but Wanda is already 3 steps ahead of him. She unleashes the light from the Eye of Agamotto, which basically acts like a supernatural bug zapper for dark arts. Dormammu realizes too late that she isn't playing by the old rules. He lets out a roar of agony as the bile of Satha begins to literally dissolve his Faltine S's. It turns out that insulting a Sorcerer Supreme is a great way to get yourself erased. Wanda reflects on how Stephen Strange was a healer, which is cool, but that's just not her vibe. She defines herself as a mother, a teacher, and most importantly, a survivor who doesn't take trash from demons. Her emerald eyes flare with a terrifying light that signals the end of this conversation. What she does next is going to leave a mark on the dark dimension forever. She blasts him with a concentrated surge from the Darkhold, forcing him to experience 10 billion years of pure, unadulterated anguish in a split second. And then, the physics of Manhattan start to get really weird. Dormammu gets punted through the air and slams into a delivery van with a heavy impact that definitely voids the insurance. Wanda floats there, hands still glowing like she's just finished taking out the trash. The Demon Lord is reeling, realizing that even the whole Darkhold couldn't do more than stagger him, yet she's actually winning. He tries to save face by making more threats, but the energy is gone. He crawls through the wreckage, warning her that the Darkhold's poison will eventually rot her soul from the inside out. But Wanda is looking past him, focused on something much more mundane. She casually snaps a portal open, letting the demon know that her rejuvenation happens in much more fertile soils than this. It's the ultimate brush-off for a guy who thinks he's a god. She prepares to leave. A voice crackles in her head asking where she is because they had a meeting in Brooklyn. So even a Sorcerer Supreme has to deal with the stress of being late for brunch. Down in Brooklyn, Darcy Lewis is giving Eli Feist some grief about Wanda's chronic lateness. She notes that for someone with all the magic in the world, Wanda really struggles with a watch. Eli is wondering if Wanda is going to show up in a puff of smoke. Just as her voice rings out in their minds, she apologizes, explaining the whole ageless being of pure magic situation she just handled. Wanda teleports in with a sassy abracadabra, catching the group off guard. Darcy is mostly tired from watching the intern pack up the old corner store stock. The shop is changing hands, and Wanda officially makes Darcy the boss of the Emporium. It's a passing of the torch that feels a lot more personal than her cosmic battles. She meets Eli, the new intern, and gives him a playful warning about the last guy getting ritually sacrificed. Eli looks like he's reconsidering his career choices right about now. Darcy asks the big question: how's the new gig as Sorceress Supreme going? Wanda's expression softens, revealing the weight of a crown she never expected to wear. The new job came with a new house, specifically the legendary Sanctum Sanctorum on Bleecker Street. It's a place where the air itself feels like it's holding its breath, but the house isn't empty, and Wong is making it very clear that he's not a fan of the new management. He accuses her of just taking his best friend's home and title for herself. Wong stands there in his green robes, looking like a wall that Wanda can't just blast through. He points out that the Vishanti didn't choose her, and neither did Stephen before he vanished. Wanda has ditched the superhero spandex for a flowing, colorful dress that makes her look like a true mystic queen. She tells Wong that sorcerers shouldn't lack imagination when it comes to destiny. Wong isn't budging, calling her a wrecking ball that is shattering every magic norm they've ever had. He respects the title, but he absolutely loathes the person currently holding it. Suddenly, a ghost dog named Bats flits into the room, asking the most important question of the day: who's taking him for a walk? It's a much-needed break from the heavy tension. Wanda agrees to the walk, but she's drawing the line at walking the snakes that Anton and Alistair have hanging around. So, the new Sorcerer Supreme is officially on dog-walking duty. Wanda steps into a room lined with massive enchanted mirrors, preparing for her very first cabinet meeting. She knows she's overdue for some counsel after all the chaos of the last few days. She stands before the mirrors, which reflect a group of very powerful individuals from across the magical spectrum. She admits that Doom thought he was infallible, but she's not interested in making his mistakes. She wants to be bold and break things to redefine how magic and mortals interact. But then she asks who wants to speak first. and the silence in the room gets a lot louder. Somnus, the king of dreams, is the first to chime in from his mirror, having just saved the Avengers from a dream parasite. He's hesitant to give his opinion to someone as powerful as Wanda. He explains that while he looks fresh-faced, he's over a century old, and knows how people tick. His concern isn't that her plan is bad, but that people hate change more than they hate problems. He warns her that being bold is great, until it starts scaring the people you're actually trying to save. It's a reality check that Wanda wasn't necessarily looking for. Speed, also known as Wanda's son Tommy, pops up in the next mirror with his signature goggles and white hair. He tells her that people love comfort, and they won't like her messing with the status quo. But he's got her back, having just landed a gig with the United Nations Sorcerer's Crime Service. He's learning the ropes and promises to be her eyes and ears in the bureaucratic world. Her other son, Wiccan, was a lot more concerned about the ripple effect her defiance of the Vishanti will have. He knows that every sorcerer is about to be under a massive microscope now. Wanda sighs, knowing that those wise sorcerers have never really considered her feelings before acting. She's used to being the one everyone talks about rather than talks to. She looks at her boys with a mother's love, reflecting that children are just a reminder that tomorrow is always bigger than today. But then the conversation shifts to someone much more intense. Wanda admits that she failed her last student, Amaranth, by trying to teach her the wrong way. She wants a fresh start with this cabinet, built on honesty instead of traditional master-pupil lies. Clea, the Sorceress Supreme of the Dark Dimension, stares back with a look that says she's seen it all. She tells Wanda that not every change needs to be a high-speed collision with tradition. She asks how Wanda can possibly know this bold path is the right one, especially when the stakes are this high. Wanda admits she doesn't know for sure, but she doesn't see any other way forward. Clea reminds her that norms and formalities exist for a reason, citing how she had to barter her sister free from their mother. It's a lesson in patience that Wanda might not have time for. Wanda wonders how effective changing the system from within really is, or if it just keeps you stuck. But then, a voice from the final mirror interrupts with a much sharper tone. It's Tan, the Dark Elder, who has been hounding Wanda since the day she was born. He prefers her exactly as she is, a true and primal disruptor of the natural order. Wanda has crafted him a new domain to play in, keeping her enemy close where she can watch him. She knows he expected a fight, but she gave him a job as a devil's advocate instead. Kathan lass, calling the other advisors cowards and saying the Vishanti were fools for underestimating her. He thinks her move to humble the Elder Gods warrants the highest praise. The mirror flashes to a memory of the original vestments being vaporized by the Living Tribunal during Doom's reign. It was a moment of total destruction that changed the rules of magic forever. Thawne snarls that Wanda ransacked Doom's corpse for those items after he chose martyrdom. He tells her that morals are just chains, and she should be proud to have broken them. Wanda pushes back, saying she respects what Victor did to save his goddaughter. She knows the vestments were collateral damage in his eyes, but she saw something else. A close-up of Tan's jagged teeth shows his amusement at her attempt to find a middle ground. He tells her the vestments' lives were hers to take, and he's eager to see what she does next. Wanda explains that she heard the vestments crying out from the void long after their physical forms were gone. She reconstituted them through the last door, a portal for those with nowhere else to turn. She didn't steal the Cloak of Levitation or the Eye of Agamotto. She answered their call when they were defenseless. They recognized that she was someone who would never abandon them to annihilation. She looks down at the golden eye, feeling its pulse and its weight in her hand. It wasn't about power for her. It was about rescuing a legacy that had been abandoned by everyone else. She reaches up with both hands, the red energy of her hexes wrapping around the items like a warm embrace. She was the only one who listened when the universe's most powerful artifacts needed a friend. The vestments recognized her soul and sought her out to be their new bearer. It was a mutual choice, but that choice didn't sit well with the cosmic powers that be. Wanda dons the cloak, feeling its fabric ripple like it's alive, and realizes that not being chosen by the Vishanti is going to be a massive problem. And then, the room starts to shake. The voices of the Vishanti boom through the sanctum, accusing her of common thievery. They don't care that Doom is gone. They want their toys back immediately. The giant, spectral heads of a tiger, a woman, and a golden man loom over Wanda in a display of pure celestial fury. They declare that only they can select a Sorcerer Supreme, and she's definitely not it. They call her a ward of witchcraft, and claim her cursed coven is the only reason she's being so bold. Wanda stands her ground, offering a safe haven to the magic they've neglected for too long. She tells them straight to their faces that if the Cloak and Eye want her, she will defend them as Sorceress Supreme. It's a line in the sand that these ancient gods aren't used to seeing. They scream that Dune's folly was enough, and they won't entertain this madness for another second. They demand the vestments return to their masters so a true successor can be chosen. They try to intimidate her, telling her that beneath her proud displays, she is nothing more than a frightened child. The magical pressure in the room becomes almost unbearable. Wanda's human form seems to melt away as the cosmic weight of their judgment tries to crush her. It looks like she's falling through a void of her own memories and fears. But then begin a close-up of her eyes, and they aren't filled with fear. They're filled with a cold, green fire. She asks them if that's really all they see when they look at her. She blasts out a wave of red energy that completely shatters their spectral forms, telling them to look again. She isn't a child. She's the one who's going to guard magic against every threat, including them. Her red energy rings expand, pushing back the gods themselves and making it clear she won't be intimidated. They ask if she's lost her mind. But Wanda has never been more focused. She sends them to neutral ground at the crossroads, telling them today was their only warning. She admits to herself that her friends won't like this, but magic is just too mighty to be left in their hands. The scene shifts back to the sanctum in the morning light, where things look peaceful on the surface. Wanda reflects on how these changes to her life have been illuminating, for better or worse. Wong is in the kitchen, carefully pouring tea while one of his magical snakes watches his every move. He's already thinking about how there's one less check on the Sorcerer Supreme now. The snake Anton suggests he could have just shuffled her off to London or Hong Kong to get her out of his hair, but Wong thinks it's better to keep her close where she can be tempted by reason. Anton points out that if Wong really thinks she's going to burn it all down, he should probably do more than just sip tea. Wong stays calm, but his eyes tell a different story. He notes that Wanda is unpredictable, and her methods are untraditional, unlike Steven's steady hand. He prefers she sought his counsel, but he knows she's her own woman. A tight shot on Wong's face shows his quiet resolve as he sips his tea. He's willing to be proven wrong about her, but he's not going to hold his breath. Meanwhile, Wanda is literally out in the streets of Nick, walking bats through Washington Square Park. She's trying to stay grounded while her magical senses are on high alert. She performs a morning miracle for some skateboarders, letting them ignore gravity for a few seconds of pure airtime. One of the guys shouts that it's sick, not even realizing he's talking to a god. Bats asks her why she's really doing all this small-scale magic for random strangers. Wanda tells him she was asked to, and because she truly believes magic can do more than just fight. She pets the ghost dog, explaining that traditionally, magic has too many rules and barriers for normal people to enjoy. She's wearing sunglasses and a head wrap, trying to blend in with the city crowd. An aerial view shows her crossing the street, her magic subtly correcting the world around her in small ways. She thinks that guarding something for too long eventually just turns it into a cage. Inside a coffee shop, her magic prevents a stack of boxes from falling on a distracted employee. She thinks that in these dark days, people deserve to see a few miracles now and then. She passes a delivery truck where more magic is at work, keeping the crates stable as a worker moves them. She's treating the city like a garden she's carefully tending to. She walks past Steve-O's restaurant. She reflects on how rituals and rules have to evolve over time, but then something cuts through her concentration like a jagged blade. Wanda suddenly clutches her head in pain, letting out a sharp gasp as a massive magical shock hits her. It's like a catastrophic horn of heaven is blowing right in her ear. She looks up to see Agatha Harkness floating in the air, glowing with purple energy and looking far more powerful than usual. Agatha thanks her for forcing the Vishanti's hand, because now they've chosen a true Sorceress Supreme. A flashback to the inner planes shows the Vishanti tasking Agatha with stopping Wanda Maximoff. They tell her their Wanda's claim is a lie, and that the Scarlet Witch is in open rebellion against the natural order. Above the streets of New York, Agatha unleashes a massive purple blast, screaming that Wanda cast the Vishanti out like trash. Wanda flies up to meet her, fueled by her own glowing red sigils. Wanda's eyes turn into twin beacons of white light as she screams that the pretender in the room is actually Agatha. She unleashes a localized zap chum that rattles the very air between the buildings. Agatha's face begins to sizzle as Wanda's counterspell hits her full force, proving that raw power isn't everything in a magic fight. Wanda feels a momentary surge of sympathy, but Agatha isn't interested in being saved. Bats, the ghost dog, sprints back to the sanctum, barking his head off that Wanda is under attack by Agatha Harkness. He's panicked, because he knows how dangerous Agatha can be when she's motivated. He finds Wong in the kitchen, who is calmly kneading dough or looking like he's in the middle of a Zen meditation. Wong acknowledges the threat, but doesn't immediately drop his rolling pin. Wong admits that he's doubted the Vishanti before, but Wanda's total rejection of them has left them in a weird spot. He wonders who they should even stand with if a new successor has truly been chosen. Wand tells the dog that aiding Wanda now might save her life, but it would definitely destroy her legitimacy as Sorceress Supreme. She has to prove she can defeat a challenger on her own, or she's already lost. Wanda is struggling as Agatha's staff strikes deep into her magical defenses, asking what has happened to her old mentor. She can't believe Agatha would act out of such pure, unadulterated spite. Agatha laughs, telling Wanda that while their friendship spanned Wanda's whole life, it's just a tiny blink in hers. She claims she's been many things over 10,000 years, but never the supreme ruler of magic. Wanda reaches out with a glowing red hand, her fingers etched with magical symbols, ready to strike back. She tells Agatha that she still isn't the Sorceress Supreme, and she never will be. She reminds Agatha that anything can break, even legendary shields like Archon's aged Aegis. She knows something is forcing Agatha's hand, but she can't afford to be gentle anymore. Agatha's eyes widen in shock as Wanda's hand moves toward her face, fueled by the eye of Agamotto. It's a moment of pure realization that the student has finally surpassed the master. Agatha reveals that the will of the Vishanti is no simple walking stick. It was born in a celestial temple and cuts deeper than flesh. She strikes Wanda with it, targeting her astral heart and sending her into a world of pain. The staff glows with an intense white light as Agatha twists the blade of magic, laughing while Wanda collapses into herself. She claims her gaze takes chaos and burns it like pure oxygen. Wanda lets out a gut-wrenching scream, J-E-E-U, as the magical sickness Agatha unleashed begins to rot her from within. It's a brutal, dirty way to fight, and it's working. She tells Agatha to stop, pleading that this performance isn't who she really is. Wanda reaches out one more time, but her energy is flagging, and her vision is starting to blur. Agatha floats above her, staff in hand, telling Wanda that she was just waiting for the right offer to finally take what's hers. She accuses Wanda of stealing guardianship over magic itself and raising the stakes too high. The eye of Agamotto on Wanda's chest blinks, watching the scene with an eerie, detached curiosity. It's a reminder that even when things look hopeless, the artifacts of the Sorcerer Supreme have their own plans. Wanda looks up, her face tight with a new kind of resolve, telling Agatha that if she wants to raise the stakes, they'll do it together. She prepares a spell for a heart trade. She unleashes a localized hex that hits Agatha right in the solar plexus, making her scream in a mix of pain and pure shock. Agatha cries out that she can't breathe and can't feel her arm. Agatha gasps that she's almost impressed by Wanda's ruthlessness. Even as she tastes blood, she admits there might be a small speck of wisdom in her former student after all. With a final puff, Agatha vanishes into a cloud of purple smoke, leaving Wanda alone in the sky. But the fight isn't over, it's just moving to a different battlefield. Wanda reflects on how she crafted her magical diary as a record of her time as Sorceress Supreme, not a ledger of near-death experiences. She knows Agatha will be back, and she has to be ready for an even deadlier strike. She returns to the mirror room to seek counsel from Tron, knowing that he's the only one who truly understands the dark underbelly of magic. Chrysaresis waiting for her, looking smug in his reflection. Wanda tells him he can't even save himself, so he shouldn't be so cocky about her situation. She reminds him that only his words can escape the mirror she's trapped him in. Chulthan chuckles, saying he has a front row seat to the end of her short reign. He tells her she could have spread his will across the stars, but she wished to be lesser, and settled for a small life. They have an agreement to speak, but Chulthan makes sure to twist every word to his advantage. He's the ultimate devil's advocate, and Wanda knows she has to dissect everything he says. He admits he's actually enjoying his quaint little universe, where he can explore all his amusing whims in peace. He asks if she's truly come to him for guidance, or if she's just desperate. Wanda looks away, her face filled with a quiet exhaustion that she can't show anyone else. She knows Tron speaks with a small man's confidence, but she still needs to hear what he knows about Agatha. We see a memory of Wanda scouring reality for Chotan at the far shore before the edge of creation. He was a massive, rotting husk of a god, mocking her for coming to grovel at his feet. Back in the mirror, Chon tells her that people believe he's planning some grand revenge, but he's actually enjoying the quiet. He notes that a sire isn't spoken for by his children, especially when they've jailed him in their soul. He reflects on all the time he spent seeding corruption and spoiling souls, admitting he lacked true ambition before. He looks out over the gray rocks of his pocket universe, seemingly content with his exile. He says he could have poisoned all magic at the source, but Wanda interrupted his plans. Wanda tells him she didn't come to fight, but to offer him a specific role in her new hierarchy. She tells him that since she's been honored as Sorceress Supreme, she needs a Check-a-True Devil to keep her honest. In return for his perspective, she's giving him a place to exist where he can't hurt anyone else. She offers him the Sleeping Beyond, an entire pocket universe where he can redesign physics and seed life as he sees fit. All she asks is that he remains there and shares his insights when she needs them. A shot of Wanda floating through a shattered dimension shows her power and her isolation. Teuthon notes that she's offering him a canvas that is actually a cage built to scale. He agrees to her offer because he realizes that even an infinite universe can be a prison if you know what rests beyond. The last thing he expected was for Wanda to reach out with an open hand instead of a fist. Back at the Sanctum Sanctorum, Agatha Harkness arrives with her staff, looking at the holy site like it's just a rundown shack. She notes that what it lacks in physical scale, it makes up for in cunning magical traps. She starts weaving a massive web of pink energy around the building, calling it a grand achievement of eldritch architecture. But then she adds that all those spells and wards are quite flammable. Agatha raises her staff, calling upon the skull of Necrom to burn everything to the ground. Inside, Wanda reflects on a lifetime ago when she thought Agatha knew everything and was her greatest teacher. She remembers a visit to Nirvalon, a realm of pure radiance, where Agatha's pride led her to enchant the locals just because they disagreed with her. It was a dark sign of the woman she would eventually become. Wanda recalls the lesson Agatha taught her: never openly admit weakness. She realizes now that Agatha's need to be right was more important to her than being good or being respected. A close-up of Wanda's eye shows her fear that Agatha will see her path through to its bitter end, no matter who gets hurt. And then, the snakes from Wong's head suddenly strike, biting Agatha's shoulders. Agatha screams as the snakes sink their fangs in, while a voice warns her that she was wrong to come here. It turns out Agatha isn't just fighting a witch, she's fighting the sanctum itself. Wong drops from the ceiling like a martial arts master, fists glowing with golden energy, shouting that he has sworn to defend this house. Agatha is caught in the middle of a witch's quarrel and a very angry butler. The two engage in a chaotic magical brawl that fills the sanctum's library with green and purple flashes. Wong tells her she's a fool for threatening those who dwell here, while Agatha warns him that Wanda has sent him to his death. Wanda appears in the middle of the fight, grabbing Agatha and telling her she has no strings pulling at her anymore. She warns her old mentor that she lacked the vision to wield such dark forces safely. The two women lock eyes as they struggle over Agatha's staff, their faces inches apart. Wanda tells her that magic isn't a fiefdom to be ruled by robbery, but Agatha thinks the Vishanti have been robber barons for too long. Agatha screams that magic is too great to trust to the common herd and that there are always costs to pay for power. She's determined to burn the old system down, even if it means burning herself too. She unleashes a cleansing fire that begins to consume Wanda's very flesh, telling her that the house will stand, but she will not. The magical flames of Necrom begin to roar with a deafening foosh. A close-up of Wanda's terrified face shows the fire reflected in her eyes as Agatha asks her how often she's enchanted her own body. The implication is that Wanda herself is the fuel for this magical explosion. The entire sanctum is engulfed in a massive white-hot blast as Agatha asks the final question. What happens when you pour gasoline on a fire? We're left staring at the blinding light of a battle that's just getting started.